As a parent, it's natural for us to feel like these kids are taking years off my life. But there's a reality inside of science right now that's pointing out that having kids actually helps you live longer. It's interesting coming in the face of a new social media trend called DINKs. It stands for dual income with no kids. So if having kids is really beneficial for our health, why is there a social movement to not have them? And if this is the way of the culture and the movement, what kind of society are our kids growing up in? Thinking a lot about this can lead some parents to a dark place. But today on the Celebrate Kids podcast, in our daily segment Face in the Dark, we're going to talk about this. How do we prepare our families and our kids to live well in a culture that doesn't value children? Let's turn now to Dr. Kathy Koch.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby. Not every light is gonna guide you.
So, Dr. Kathy, there's kind of a new movement inside of a lot of millennial couples. It's called DINKs. It's an acronym for dual income with no kids. These are kind of people who are living purposefully as maybe married couples or even just kind of partners who both have an income, but they don't have kids. Now, there's a study that was done in December of 2023 from the University of Michigan that suggests that parenting children can actually extend a person's life expectancy to the age of 76. So these DINKs, I would say, I feel like that's kind of derogatory, but that's actually what they call themselves. A 2017 report discovered that really children aid in keeping their moms and dads' minds active going into old age. That adds really surprisingly 2 years to their lives. A 2022 probe also kind of talked about how women who give birth to babies later in life have a greater chance of actually living longer due to increased genetic material, which gives really good health and kind of helps fight the risk of chronic conditions, things like type 2 diabetes and cancer and cardiovascular disease. Apparently, celebrating kids really is good for us, Dr. Kathy, so I'm glad that we're kind of in this space. But the modern move kind of these DINKs, these dual income with no kids adults, is really, I would say, kind of concerning. What do you think it says about a society that really, kind of has this movement or celebrating this that really doesn't, I don't know if they don't value kids, but they definitely don't want to, celebrate them or have them in their lives. What are your thoughts on that?
I find this concerning in that it sounds really selfish to me. Like, I don't want to change a diaper and be forced to stay home. I'd rather, go on vacation. So again, the selfishness in our culture, the self-centeredness in our culture is concerning because it's not good for them. It's not good for any of us. It's emotional, defeating. It ruins relationships. And if the reason that they're choosing not to have kids is a selfish self-centeredness and an entertainment mind, I'm sad for them because they're missing out on so much that's so beautiful. I want to respectfully say that there are many young couples who are infertile, who are dying, who are having private tear fests that we know nothing about. So we do not want to imply here that any couple married for a while without kids is this selfish person that this article is about. And it's funny because when you first brought this to my attention, I would think that having children decreases your life because, the gray hair comes and you're thinking you're older and you're exhausted from picking up the kids and sweeping the floor and, whatever. So I do think it's really interesting that it keeps the brain young because you have to be thinking, you have to be entertaining, you have to be engaging. I think that's fascinating. I'm going to say one more thing, and that is that I don't want anyone having kids so that they live a longer life. You have children when you're called to have children because to procreate is God's call on a married couple. Maybe we would say it that way. And it's such a privilege to bring children into the world that they would know Jesus and choose to glorify God. So we're not saying go have kids because it'll prove you're not selfish.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Dr. Kathy. I did bring those studies up inside of kind of talking about this, just to say that really it does benefit you to have kind of kids around you according to these studies. But I kind of want to talk about that for a hot minute here as you kind of explain that, because oftentimes we want to do things in our lives because it benefits us. we get a longer life expectancy because we have kids, so we are happier and it benefits us. And if it doesn't benefit us, then we kind of don't want to walk down that road. What does adult involvement in kids' lives actually do for the kids? Can I kind of turn the table on that?
Oh, I love that. It increases security. When children are known and children are loved and liked, it enhances everything about their lives. They'll have security, they'll have trust, they'll have honesty. They'll have someone to go to, when they hurt their thumb or when they don't understand why the world works the way it does. And convince me again, Daddy Joe, that God is good because I don't like him today. I mean, if kids don't have adults, who do they go to mature from and learn from and grow up with? And no, the joy, right? The joy that it causes. Kids in orphanages. I mean, I've been to countries where, it's just sadness. Adults have a chance to minister hope and healing of Jesus Christ to children who haven't yet experienced him in the full possibilities where adults have. We're so privileged.
Yeah, I like that kind of posture there, Dr. Kathy, that idea of really stepping in as kind of service to the people around us, to the kids around us, right? And that idea of service is something that you've talked a lot about, especially in your new book on parenting, Parent Differently, where you talk about that really being kind of a characteristic that we should not only teach to our kids, but also really embody, and how it kind of actually supports and encourages, different things that are healthy for us, different mental health realities and different kind of physical health realities. How is serving others and maybe even serving kids kind of for kids' sake, but I kind of want to say for Jesus' sake, right? We do it because the Lord has loved us. That's a strong argument for kind of having kids. Might be, to boost our immune system or to help us live longer, or maybe kind of keep us from kicking the can too early. How is actually kind of this idea of service to the kids something that we should kind of maybe look around or embody or wrap our minds around, that when we love others, even as we love kids, that we're actually loving Jesus? Is that a positive or a beneficial thing to do? And then is that a positive or beneficial way to look at specifically this issue? And how can we as adults train that into our kids as well?
When we know that we've been created on purpose, everything changes. There is research that suggests that a lack of purpose is a leading contributor to sadness, depression, and suicide. When we know that we can love and we can influence and we can impact and we can like and we can change people, it changes us. Living on purpose wakes us up in the morning. Living on purpose motivates us to learn and to become even more than who we were. So absolutely, I think it's life-changing and potentially extends our life and the quality of our life, because we're not created for our own benefit. We're not created to live looking inward. We're created to leave the world a better place, and that happens when you influence other people. And to do that with children, whether they're family members of yours or not, changes culture, changes the future, not just for those children, but for all of us, because they will be the future decision makers. This is huge. This is fun to talk about.
As Dr. Kathy was talking today, there was a verse that popped into my mind. It comes out of 1 John chapter 4, and I'm going to begin reading at verse 7. Beloved, let's love one another, because love comes from God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Whoever doesn't love doesn't know God, because God is love. There's something about the way that John describes what happens here inside of culture that really is inspiring for us as parents. That as we look at our kids, and even as we train our kids and teach them and guide them, that referencing the reality of what Jesus has done for us, and really for the entire world, as John 3:16 says, really does more than just benefit us. It actually benefits the entire world, because as we understand God's love, it actually changes the entire world, and it even changes hearts and minds. And so in the face of different cultural trends or movements, teaching our kids to love as Christ loved, that's countercultural, but it's also something that cuts through dark times. And I hope that is an encouragement for you to face the dark today. I want to thank you for listening to the Celebrate Kids podcast in this, our daily segment, Facing the Dark. On behalf of Dr. Kathy Koch, my name's Wayne Stender. I want to say thanks for listening, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you here again tomorrow.